Okay, so just basically the carbs are not bad. So just to get that out of the way, but they are something we really have to watch out for if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, because they are the thing that will raise your blood sugar. So the idea would be just like when you choose them, you want to choose the best ones and then try to choose them over the course of the day, because it's better for your body. Say your body is just having trouble with carbohydrates, it'd be better for it. I'd want to give myself like a little bit of fuel, like steadily, versus like give myself like a bunch of fuel at breakfast and then nothing, because that's not, you're not going to feel so good. So that's really important with diabetes. So if you don't have diabetes, your body can adjust to kind of give you that whenever you need it. But with somebody with diabetes, if you do too much at one time, that kind of like what we talked about last time, there's just going to be too much sugar in the blood. So it takes a while for the body to handle that. So you just want to be easy on your body and just give it a little bit all the time, kind of. So I always use the example kind of, if you have diabetes, if I always use it, but it works, I think, to myself anyway. So if I gave Lesta a whole cake, it'd be better for her to eat that cake small amounts throughout the day than have just like the whole cake at breakfast. And that would make a big difference. She could actually have the whole cake and enjoy it. That's okay, because her body would be able to, slowly, work on that cake as she ate it. So, all right. So I just wanted to show you, this was the My Plate that they teach at school now. We used to have the food guide pyramid. They replaced that, and they came up with this because people were having trouble figuring out exactly how much to put on their plate. So the goal with this then would be half your plate fruits and vegetables. So they found out okay, so if somebody has diabetes, they were saying, this might be a little bit high with the carbohydrates so that you can be the healthiest ever. So the ideal for somebody with diabetes would be to try to do half of the plate vegetables, a fourth meat, 1/4 starches, and then a little bit of milk. And so the vegetables, you would want those to be non-starchy vegetables. So somebody might be like, how am I going to eat that many vegetables? But you can, because just think about, your favorite non-starchy vegetable. So we'll talk about which ones are, but something like broccoli, right? You might love it. You could have a little bit of broccoli, have a little bit of salad, and then you could have the meat and the starch and the milk. And so just out of those, then, sorry, we forgot the fruit. You see on the left there. Okay, so the fruit is on the left. So there's only, so the non-starchy vegetables would not raise your blood sugar. And one of those other groups would not raise your blood sugar either. Which one would that be? The meat, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have to read the chat later. Okay, so just the meat then would not raise your blood sugar. So we have the meat and then the non-starchy vegetables, unless you ate a large quantity. Just to be clear, they do have a little bit, whereas things like the meat and the cheese, hardly any at all. But vegetables do have a small amount, even the non-starchy ones. So if you ate like 5 cups of something, then you might want to start counting it. Okay, so just thinking about that, and you might wonder, well, what is like 1 cup? What's a half cup? What's a tablespoon? So you can use your fingers. And I want to go back, sorry, just to go back one more time, but I think it's kind of helpful. So, say Lesta had that cake and she really wanted to have some for dinner. And so there's 3 things on here that would increase your blood sugar. Say you get like 3 servings. So it'd be the fruit, the starches. I clicked on the screen, that's what happens. Fruit, starches, and milk. And so it's kind of like if you want dessert, say it's Thanksgiving, you have 3 things to pick from, kind of, because your body can about handle that at the same amount of time. And your doctor might say you have more. Like sometimes if you're a man, you might have 1 more. If you're a woman, you might have maybe 1 less, just depending on where you're at or how, if you have a really high blood sugar, maybe they'll try to put you on a few less carbs so your body can handle that better. But you can kind of dish out then, trying to manage it, balance it out with things that won't raise your blood sugar. But you could have maybe what's your favorite dessert? Ice cream. So she wants ice cream. So basically we could just replace that milk. So you won't want to do it all the time because milk's pretty good. It helps your bones and stuff, which ice cream probably does a little bit too, but not as much as milk. And it also, milk has more vitamins, right? Less sugar, less carbs. So she's going to replace maybe that milk with a little bit of ice cream. And then she could have a starch too and a fruit. But maybe that would be like one way to do it. Or maybe if she's having a little more ice cream than, like she's having a small amount of ice, maybe she wants more ice cream, then maybe I would replace all three. And that meal, just her carbohydrates, our ice cream, and then she'd fill up on like maybe chicken and asparagus or something like that. But that's how you could do it then so your body could handle it. So it's not like anything is off limits, but you just got to really, really watch it. And the things like that, they have more fat and they have a little extra sugar, so they're going to be harder on your heart. So you can do that and manage your blood sugar, but then your heart might be like, why are you giving me so much ice cream? Even though that's good. He's probably loving it. But okay, but just, I guess, if you can kind of understand what I'm saying, if you're having like pecan pie, you really want that for dessert, maybe you really cut down on the mashed potatoes and the stuffing, yeah, and all the other things that are on Thanksgiving, the jello, like what is that? There's so many things at Thanksgiving. Thanksgivings are hard, right? They have the bread roll that would increase your blood sugar, stuffing, pumpkin pie because it has all the sugar in it. So like the best things at Thanksgiving for loading up your plate would be like the turkey. What else? Sweet potatoes do raise your blood sugar, but they would be better than other things because they'd be a healthy way to raise your blood sugar. What else could you have that wouldn't really? So you could have turkey, vegetables. What kind? Green beans. Yeah, and then a green bean casserole. If it is made with a bunch of butter, would that increase your blood sugar? So the butter would not, but it could be hard on your heart. So you see that, but at least then like you're having like maybe you could have some asparagus, some green beans, and you have like broccoli. Maybe they have a veggie tray or something like that. Those things would all be something you could definitely eat a lot of and fill up on, have a salad, and then have some of the turkey. Maybe you have chicken, or maybe you have steak or something. And then maybe you love mashed potatoes. And so maybe that would be your starch. You just have kind of like three of those, and those would be carbohydrates. So moving on. Okay, so just if you don't have a measuring cup, so what they do is they kind of say things are equal. So like 15 grams of carbohydrates would be equal to one slice of bread. Okay. So then you can kind of interchange, and so you can find out like maybe a half cup of ice cream is equal to about 15, so that that if you're going to have a piece of bread, maybe you could just have the ice cream instead, and then you can kind of interchange them like that. So that's how you look. So you look at the label. If you have a label and you look at total carbohydrate, and so this for 1.5 cups of these Cheerios here, it's 30 grams of carbohydrates. So I would know that that's, if I have 1.5 cups, that's almost equal to 2 pieces of bread. So then like a small apple is a serving. And so what these things are helping you for is if you don't have like a measuring cup, so you can kind of think rice and like all those starchy things like pasta and like maybe sweet potato casserole, because that's kind of has some carbohydrates in it, or like maybe like a fruit salad if it's cut up. That's like one handful would be equal to about 15. And if it's fluffy stuff, like say you have like chips or pretzels or probably those Cheerios, you think of like 2 handfuls would be about a cup. And so that would be about equal to 15. And so that one is giving you 1.5 for 30. So it's like, I guess, 2 of them. But okay, so yeah, so just in general, usually that's about equal to that. So it's 1 ounce or 15 grams would be equal to, it's a lot, right? So just basically, if you can think about it, you have that plate, right? So if you could think about like 1 handful of the heavy stuff, like mashed potatoes or stuffing, would be like one of those spots. So say women get like about 3 in a meal and men maybe get about 4 if you're under control. Otherwise, your doctor might say, maybe cut it down just a little bit until you can get that A1C down. And then you could increase maybe a little bit. But so just thinking about, you have 3, you can do whatever you want. And so the idea would be to choose the healthiest for your heart that you love, because you shouldn't have to give up anything. You guys should be able to have good A1Cs and everything. And there's tips too, so if she wants the ice cream, right, maybe something she could do is take a walk after the meal, because that really can lower the blood glucose too. Okay, so just some other things too. For stacked ice would be 1 ounce of cheese. So I don't know if you've ever seen like recipes where they say like, add like 2 ounces of cheese on top of the casserole. You're like, what the heck? How do you measure that? So just one thing you could do is kind of measure your hand, because about what you fit in your hand, about a 1/4 cup or about what's in your hand is considered an ounce. So that's how you could do that. A deck of cards would be about equal to 3 ounces of meat. So a lot of people do the palm of your hand too. And somebody was like, well, what if, your child's hand is really, really small? How does that work? But it kind of works out. If your husband has a way bigger hand, he might actually need a little bit more protein or a little bit more meat. So just kind of thinking about the palm of your hand can help too. So if you go to like a steakhouse and the things like this big, you're trying to think of how many palms of your hands you can fit on there. So maybe like cut it up multiple meals, right? And then a pancake would be a compact disc, about, if you guys remember what CDs are. So that would be that. So thinking about that's about equal to 15. So if you go to IHOP and you get those really big pancakes, you're thinking about it's maybe like 3 pieces of bread in one pancake or something. Just so because then well, maybe I should like either just cut this pancake. Like that would not be an ideal breakfast because then you want syrup or something like that or fruit, right? So you're better off like, would eggs raise your blood sugar? No. So they're mostly protein, right? They're protein. So in the meat section, so they wouldn't then. Okay. So just going on then, and then do you have some questions that you see?
There's one question. What do you think about using healthy fats during meals to offset carbs? For example, tahini or avocado on vegetables to offset some of the carbs elsewhere in the meal.
I think that's a great idea. So I don't know if you could hear him, but he was saying that somebody asked in the chat, probably, oh yeah, I see it. Avocados maybe you could add something like a healthy fat, like avocados. I mean, nuts would be another one, or they said tahini. Is that right? So tahini, do you know what nut that is, you guys? What is ground up to get tahini? Anybody know? Ron, do you know? He's like, I'm not listening. Okay, so it's sesame seeds, right? Yeah, so you grind those and you can put them in hummus then. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so I would say that could be a great option because sometimes it's kind of like the plate, like we're showing here. If you can balance your plate with carbohydrates and something that's not going to have carbohydrates in it, it helps it not go up as fast. So that's exactly what they're saying with the fruit or with the fat there, to choose healthier fat. So it almost like it would be way better if you're having a snack to have a piece of bread with maybe peanut butter on it. That wouldn't, because something like just carbohydrates would raise your blood sugar faster. And then if it's like a simple carbohydrate, which is, I can see why people are confused about nutrition. It's complicated, right? Okay, so like if it's like soda, it's just straight sugar. There's nothing, no starchy, nothing with that. So that wouldn't cause your blood sugar to go up the fastest. And that's why people with diabetes, if you can really cut out the drinks, that's huge. That makes a big difference because your body's just like, whoa, like you're going up really fast and then you plummet down when your body finally gets all of it in your cells. So I think the complex carbohydrates would be, you might have heard those, it's kind of like the more complicated ones, and those are those vegetables and stuff because they have fiber in them and it's harder to break down. So the fiber helps, having it with fat helps, having it with protein helps, because none of those all slow down that blood sugar then. And somebody was talking about intermittent fasting too. Okay, so there's they've really doing a lot of studies on the intermittent fasting, and it's looking like it can really help some people. Some people, it seems like, act differently, so different hours might affect other people. So that's, I think they're still working on more research to give a sure, like amount of, it looks like it helps, but they're not sure about how many hours they need to have to be ideal and stuff like that. So that's what I know about that, but it could be potentially helpful.
I think one of the things that helps because like intermittent fasting is so big, it's really restricting how many calories you take. Like
because you're cutting it down.
Like that, if you're just restricting your calories just a little bit, you put yourself in a deficit, you're gonna see success. So I mean, you don't have to do intermittent fasting. You don't have to fast for like 16 hours. You can eat every 2 hours, 3 hours, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, as long as you stay within a calorie deficit. If your goal is to lose weight.
Thanks, Caleb. Okay, so just quick thing on starchy vegetables versus non-starchy. So if you can kind of remember, there's kind of 3 big ones that are starchy. And these are the ones of the vegetables that would raise your blood sugar then. So it's the corn. So like if you think about that one, corn is in a field like wheat, it's a grain. So that kind of makes sense that it would raise your blood sugar. Peas can also raise your blood sugar, and potatoes. So that's sweet potatoes too. And so these are all really, good for you. And I don't want you to cut them out, but that would be a great, if you're going to get to choose a carbohydrate, that would be a great one to have. So, and then all the other ones, all the other vegetables, they're pretty low. So you can have like a big salad, with like the lettuce, the broccoli, the cucumbers, tomatoes, mushrooms, asparagus, onions. What else? Carrots. What are you gonna say? Good. Yeah, so that's one of the other ones. It's less common, so sometimes people don't include it. But the dry beans, that one's it's actually considered a protein and a carbohydrate. So that's just one. You can count it for both. So it's a great carbohydrate to have because it has protein too and fiber. So it wouldn't increase your blood sugar very much or as much, but it would. So it has carbohydrates. They kind of say bean could be like a great food for you, like the dry beans, like black beans, kidney beans, lima beans, just because, they have the energy, they have the protein, they have the fiber, they're kind of a one-man show. So those can be really good. And they've also found, sometimes people ask me about them. I was reading a study, and they found that people who eat beans, like the people who ate more beans, had better blood glucose control than the people who don't, because they were trying to figure out, because they knew beans could raise people's blood sugar. So they were like, should we tell diabetes, tell people to stop eating them so much they have diabetes? And they found that they were in better control if you ate more. So I wouldn't stop if you like lima beans. Go. So that's my thing on that. But just recognize that they might, increase it. Yeah. Oh, we were just talking about dried beans, as long as they don't have added sugar. So like baked beans, they'd raise it a lot faster. But any kinds of like black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, lima beans. Yeah. So the thing would. That's awesome. So she was just saying she makes dry beans, and they were telling her, watch it. So just the thing would be just to remember that they do raise your blood sugar, and that's probably why the doctor's like, oh, or whatever, but they really just, I would say you could have them every day. Yeah, just making sure, kind of what we were talking about before, just trying to have, not like a really big amount at one time, just because that would raise your blood sugar, or it could. But the fiber and the protein would really slow it down. So does that help? Okay, yeah. So I would mix it with like a lot of other things. Maybe just making sure you don't have a lot of other carbohydrates with it. So if you eat, like 10 tortillas with that too, it could be maybe. So okay, so then these are meat things, right? So the dried beans and the peas on there, they would be the only ones on that entire sheet there that would raise the blood sugar. So that you'd really have to worry about. Peanut butter, small amount of carbohydrates, it does, but it has a lot of fat and protein too. So just in basic, like if you think about chicken and fish and beef and pigs, all that stuff, like if you had a breakfast with bacon and eggs in the morning with you put some olive oil in the pan, you threw some walnuts in there, spinach, all that stuff does not raise your blood sugar. So it's just the thing, you're like, well, then that's what I'm going to have. But you just want a little bit of that energy, to keep you going in that morning too. So like including some can be good. And then also trying to think about which ones, because, bacon does not raise your blood sugar, but like maybe it's not so good to have it all the time just for your heart. So Boyd's like, no.
Don't eat yogurt for breakfast. You'll be starving to death.
So he's saying yogurt does not hold him over. So that's one of the trickier ones, is that it has protein, but yogurt does have the carbohydrate. So what do you put in your biscuit? What do you put in your biscuit, did you say?
Stick with it. 2 eggs and a biscuit.
2 eggs and a biscuit. So out of that, what would raise your blood sugar? Would the eggs or the biscuit?
I don't know, but it'll keep you going where yogurt won't.
So he's putting in a promo for eggs and biscuits. So like if I could get him to change to an English muffin, I would say I would have a win there. So just something like that could be a good option, and especially whole wheat. If I could get you on whole wheat English muffins instead, I'm just saying.
Cereal's another one. I need a whole box of cereal for daylight and by 9 o'clock. I'll be starving to death. Good about that.
Less is like.
That's got more protein in it, so if you watch that, Greek yogurt, have you tried that before?
Yeah, well, no, it don't work for me.
It might mean too. They were just talking about yogurt again. If you can't hear, but just yeah. Oh, you said you'd be hungry or no? If you just have yogurt. You know, that's the thing about sometimes like they really suggest, especially with diabetes, when you have snacks to have two food groups together because it will hold you longer. So that's like, you know, if you were to have yogurt, you know, have fruit in it or have like maybe some granola in it, I guess, right? The lower sugar one, or like some nuts would be a great thing to have with it because that would hold you over longer than just plain yogurt by itself. There's actually a dip I make with kids and it could be really good like for us too, but it's just the yogurt, you put in a little bit of vanilla extract to use plain yogurt, right? Vanilla extract, and you put in peanut butter, and then you can use that for like a dip with apples and stuff. People really like it, so I just that's a plug for that one. But that would be a way to have protein and fat so that the yogurt would hold you longer, and it also wouldn't go up as quick. Okay, so that I just wanted to, these are the ones you kind of have to watch out for, right? Because they could raise your blood sugar. So we have the bread here, we have the cereal, and things like oatmeal too, right? So that would be about, because it's so dense, it would be about this, about the amount in your hand is equal to one slice of bread. So it gets to be a lot of bread quick, you know? So starchy vegetables like that corn would be about 1 cup would equal to 1 piece of bread. Dry beans, about this. So like your handful would be equal to about 1 slice of bread, then that helps. So you know that maybe you would get about 3 servings of that a meal, so then you can choose like which things you want to have. So say you're having a tortilla, you're having like a handful of beans, and then maybe like what's something you might have with it if you did rice. Would you have rice? Okay. She says she loves rice, so maybe that would be your other serving. So then you gotta be careful, right? Because like could be a lot of things. So just that. You know, I have. Because the thing is, even though I eat a little bit, like you said, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So that's where, like, sometimes she was just saying, you know, if she's having like, oh, just 1 little scoop of rice, 1 little scoop of beans, and a tortilla, she's gonna be hungry. Okay, so the vegetables can.
How many hours after you eat do you like get hungry? Is it immediate or is it just 2 hours?
Well, one idea is, do you have any? You could try including a lean meat with that. Maybe you could fish or chicken, or if you would be lean beef, if you would like, because those wouldn't raise your blood sugar, but it would have some good protein. You could also use like tofu or things like that. And then the other thing I was just going to say is that's part of the job of the vegetables is like they have that fiber to help you feel full. So it's kind of like if you could just, you know, double up on those, sometimes, you know, it can really help you get there. That would be my little thing. And just, I don't know if that helps. She's like, that's what I do. Okay. see if that'll work, or at least try. Yeah, I would love to hear. Let me know like how you're doing. Okay, so here's like what we were just talking about, the 15 grams of carbohydrate. So these are equal, all those things listed are equal to 15 grams of carbohydrate. So it's kind of like you could pick one of them and switch it for another one. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's a good idea. Steve, I just see his thing. So just adding spinach in almost everything. Did you know they have a savory oatmeal and people put like vegetables in it? So just, it's like rice, right? I mean, why not? It's very bland, so you can just make it savory or sweet or whatever. So these are all equal to about 1 piece of bread then. So say you usually have 2 pieces of toast in the morning. If instead you want 1 piece of toast and some fruit, then it would be ideal to use like 1/2 cup small cut up fruit, and that would be equal to that. So bless you. Okay. Just thinking about those two, you know, the fiber, like we talked about, so your body can't digest that, you know, that's helping us lower our cholesterol, the more of that you eat, and that's all in fruits and vegetables. Do you guys know, does meat have fiber? No. Yeah, it doesn't. So that's why, like, even though it's very chewy, it does not have any fiber. So it only comes from plant foods, fiber does. So that's why sometimes eating plants, that helps you feel full, and it also helps that blood sugar then. So beans are plants, they have that fiber. So that's one of their good things. But I think somebody asked too, I saw it in the chat earlier, could you replace yogurt with cottage cheese? So cottage cheese has a little bit less carbohydrates than yogurt does. I think maybe probably because it has more protein and more fat kind of. Even if you get the skim, it has more protein usually than yogurt. So that's why, just I guess, to be a little bit more cautious with yogurt for the blood sugar raising, even though they're both good for you. So just saying that then, and then it's kind of confusing on these labels. If you can see, like, you look at it, right, you look at the serving size first, and then you look at servings per container. So you know exactly, one serving of this is 1 cup. So that's what all those numbers are based on then. And so if you look down, you see the total fat, and you see the cholesterol and the sodium, the total carbohydrate. You see the sugars, the protein. So I think a lot of people, or at least from what I've heard, is that sometimes when you have diabetes, the thing you look at the first is the sugar. And I would just argue that maybe the thing to look for first would be the carbohydrate, because that's all that's going to raise your blood sugar. Because sugar is going to raise your blood sugar, yes, for sure, definitely. But also, like, things like starch will too. So if you can look at the total carbohydrate, that'll give you a better picture. So it's like the total carbohydrate is equal to the fiber, the sugar, and the starch. And they never put starch on the label for whatever reason. So if you kind of look at it, you can see the total carbohydrate, and you see that dietary fiber and sugars are indented. So that means that it's part of the total carbohydrate. So it's like they already add them in there. Does that make sense? So the sugar is a part of that total carbohydrate. So just look at the total carbohydrate. That'll give you a better thing. So 1 cup of this would be about equal to 2 pieces of bread then. You see the carbohydrate's 31. So that's why. What are you thinking, guys? No? Okay, she's like, okay, so I didn't know if they had a question. All right, so then just wanted to say too, like, that's the new label, the one on the right there. So if you can see, they now included a line for added sugars. So you see how it's indented under total carbohydrate. There's dietary fiber and total sugar. So those are both part of the carbohydrate. And then the other one includes 10 added sugars. That's indented again. So that's a part of the total sugars. So it's kind of confusing, but they're telling you how many of that 12 grams of sugar there are equal, or like are added in there. So you know how, like, raisins, they're sweet, right? So it's not their fault, they just are. And so what we're wondering is, in like Raisin Bran, then, like, we know it's going to have some sugar, but how much do they like add in there on top of the raisins? So now we know, because we can look at the label and see how much they add in. So that's kind of the nice thing about that, because I guess you can get a lot of vitamins with raisins, so I'd rather have the sugar from raisins than I would just from something that doesn't have any vitamins. So that's why just looking at those sugars can be helpful. But I would look at the total carbohydrates first. Okay, we're almost done. I just wanted to say too, there's like the artificial sweeteners, and sometimes I feel like there's a lot of controversy about these, but they've gone through a lot of testing before they could come on the market. So unlike, unfortunately, some like diet pills and stuff like that, this stuff is regulated by the food industry, and they really, really have to test it before they put it out there. And so there's different things about all these. So I would say, I think a lot of dietitians, everybody has their own like kind of opinion. And mine, I think, is, if I can give it, is that okay? Okay, so I would just say, like, what I found that I just resonated with me is that maybe we could just try to choose things that are naturally sweet most of the time. And then when you want to use sugar, just use like less, when you can, and just not make it like a big part of like your thing. And I would say these can definitely work. I just, if you could, they would save you money not to have to use them all the time. So maybe just try to get used to things, just maybe not as sweet. That's the one thing they might have like kind of noticed about people who have artificial sweeteners, is that sometimes they crave things really, really sweet then. So just to be careful on that. But if you want to use them, which can be definitely okay, just some of them hold up with baking and some of them don't. So if you guys use Equal, it actually denatures and loses its sweet taste when it's heated. So that's good to know, right? So you don't want to use that one in a pie or something like that. So just thinking about that. And sweet and low, they're stable when baking. So that would be usually the yellow one, or the sweet and low is the pink one, right? Yeah, pink one. Okay. And then there's a sweet one. I don't see that picture down there. Nope. The sucralose, that's the Splenda one. So you see that a lot on labels. Like, you know how I was looking at the barbecue sauce before? It had sucralose on that label. So I was just curious to which one they put in there. So that's kind of how you can see, you can look at ice cream or something if it says sugar free, because these do not have sugar and they do not have calories either, which can be beneficial, and they will not raise your blood sugar. So that's why people use them. But yeah. And the last one would be stevia. And that one also can be baked. So Splenda. So Splenda and stevia are ones that they are heat stable. And just thinking about it, stevia, did you guys know it's 200 times sweeter than sugar? So that one is you can imagine like how we get used to like a really sweet taste. But it's kind of cool because stevia, we have it growing. It's not growing right now, but we usually have it at the extension office where I work. So I've gotten to like pick off the leaf, and it does taste sweet. I've actually seen videos of people just muddling it, kind of mashing it down and putting it in lemonade instead of the sugar. So it's really cool. Like, obviously the stevia in the packets, very processed, but it did come from a reputable source. So maybe we can get everybody a plant. And so just to get an idea too, once I made something with artificial sweetener. It was like a bread, I just cut out all the sugar and I put in a bunch of artificial sweetener. And I was trying to figure out when it was done, and it never turned brown. And that's because the sugar is the thing that browns. And so I was like, it was just like, what? It's just funny, these are things you'll learn where the sugar, has that sweet taste. So it's perfect in things where it's not going to rise or things like that. Or, sometimes cookies, especially things like, where it'd be like Jello, where it doesn't matter if it turns a color or anything like that. So that's why people use it in their drinks a lot too. So just sugar would give that extra color, tenderness, moisture, volume sometimes. So they've done tests like, where they put in the artificial one and the other one. And sugar sometimes gives more volume. So it can be hard. So just even replacing half and half can help. Or the other idea would be maybe to use, just start with a little bit. You can usually cut it by 1/3 like to 1/4 at least without even replacing it with anything in the recipes, because usually they have extra already. And so just even trying to cut back a little bit and see if you could like it. Or just like using other things too, like the apple sauces or fruit juices or fruit puree. But you have to remember then that those have carbohydrate, but at least it's coming from like something that might also have fiber too, if that makes sense. Okay. So we're almost done, you guys. So the idea then would be to just balance it out. And I have some pictures of some plates I'll show you here in a second. But just the idea then to balance like out your plate, and we're going to keep talking about this in the next couple of times, but kind of focusing more on fats next time and things like that. But just trying to think then, like when I'm having a carbohydrate, maybe try to balance it out with something that's not going to raise your blood sugar, something that'll slow it down. So he's actually doing it with his breakfast there. He's having a biscuit and then he's having, eggs too. So that's balancing out. So it's way better than if he had eggs and jam or something like that. So those would both raise his blood sugar. So it's kind of like, I guess, thinking about that and then thinking about what you eat and seeing if you'd be okay with making it even better for you. Like maybe there's whole wheat biscuits. I don't know. He's like, no. Okay, so I'm throwing it out there. Okay, so something like that could be good. And then thinking about the exercise too, right? It's free. And then they really work together because it helps your body use that sugar better. So it's like the magic thing. It's kind of cool, I think. But really, if you try to do it, it can lower your blood sugar. So if you can find something that you enjoy, like, I don't know, dancing or I know you like music, but just biking, whatever, playing with grandkids, just anything like that can be good. And then thinking about those SMART steps again. So trying to make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, all of those things, because that will help you reach your goals better. And I have some websites, and then let me stop here. I think, okay, so just really quick, I wanted to show you guys, there's some example plates. I don't know if you can see this, but there's one. The pork people put this one out. It's like how you can have pork in, you know, half of your vegetables, like half the plate vegetables, you see? And then here's, Del Monte made this one. So they're like, look at, you can have green beans and, yeah, can you guys see that? So that's another way. And then here's, sometimes, which, you know, I haven't had in-person classes for long. I haven't even done it, but I used to break plates for everybody. And then you just draw a line down the middle, right? And try to think about what you could put on your half of your plate. That would be something like the vegetables, right? So this person put cabbage, they put lentil soup, and then they put those little cuties. So that's what they were having, because she was having, you know, she'd have meat there, which would also have some carbohydrates, but just an idea, you know, how you do that. And then there's a couple more. What I'll do, maybe, can I just pass these around for you guys? Okay, so it'd be this one. You can see it a little bit. It's just kind of fun to see different ideas. Thanks, Kira. And so here we have, this one looks really good to me right now. I don't know. So that one. And then we have, well, that one. Here's your, here's your rice and beans one. Oh, it looks good to me. Okay. Then we have kind of the all-American version. Almost Thanksgiving, maybe Christmas. So they'll raise your blood glucose, but you know, I guess they'd be way better than other things. It's kind of, potatoes aren't so bad. It's just what you kind of put in them sometimes. So that's what and then here's the last one here. That one looks sparser than the other ones, but it still kind of shows how you can do that. Okay, so really quick, one other thing I was gonna do, let's check time. Okay, so Caleb, I was just gonna, you know how we were talking about how much was like 1 cup and stuff like that. I was just gonna see, because sometimes like it's hard to tell, and I was just gonna say, you know, sometimes it can be really good to measure it out and just see how much 1 cup is. So Caleb, could you come down here? That'd be okay. So Caleb's with me. So this is my cereal I got from home. It's toasted oats. So I'm just gonna see if you want to guess. Okay, here's 1 cup. But I just wanted you to see if you can guess 1 cup for all these bowls, and we'll measure out and see how you do.
Okay, so pour it out.
Yeah, so whatever you think would be equal to 1 cup. So 1 cup would be, so I can see. What'd you say?
About half of one of those bowls.
That's hard, right? So you think that's 1 cup right there?
I think that's more.
All right, here, put it. I want 1 cup in each.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that
you
one's.
want to take some out? You can pour it on that plate if you want. No measuring. You're going with the last now, guys. All right, you think you got a cup in each of them?
I think I do.
All right, you guys, we'll see. Maybe if he gets exactly a cup in all of them, we'll give him the Cheerios. Okay, so we got a cup here. So they're my Cheerios, so I can touch them. Oh, this one's gonna be pretty good. Not bad. Oh my gosh, guys. Look at this guy. So I would say almost a little bit shy of 1 cup there. They did pretty good. Okay, this one. Sorry. Not bad. Okay, so he's got a little bit extra, but not too much. And then this one. I lose one every time. Oh my gosh.
Every week.
That's because I measure my food at the house, yeah.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So he's just saying, that's not bad. That's unbelievable. Okay, so we'll pick somebody else next week. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let me just quick do the other food demo and then you guys will be free to go. Thank you for keeping up with me here. And then what I'm gonna do, how about Caleb, can you just check the chat really quick? We'll just see.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions about,
Or maybe I should do that while I'm cooking. How about that? Maybe we can do that. Just to get everything going so you guys aren't, I don't wanna keep you longer than.
there was one good question.
One good one? Who's the good one?
There was a good one about glycemic index, as far as agave, like what, like compared to sugar, agave and sugar. Like,
Oh,
that was a good little.
yeah.
It's a really tough question, but it's a good question.
There have been, just some studies, that show that it might help a little bit with the blood sugar. But it's still sugar. And so I would just say, really watch it. That's not what I want to say. I want to be like, oh, let's use agave. But I think it's just kind of what the general consensus is with dietitians is that sugar is pretty much sugar. So even the honey, which does have, might have some extra vitamins and things like that, but it's still pretty high. So
Natural sugar.
what about?
It's a natural sugar.
Yeah, it is.
So we can use honey.
But I would say I'm still gonna raise your blood sugar. Could you actually raise it more? Did you know that it has per thing, it has more calories than like you do tablespoon versus tablespoon? I'm pretty sure it's more than 10.
No, stevia doesn't have so much of an effect on blood sugar, and that's
It shouldn't have any,
yeah,
actually.
that's like, I read that a long time ago, so I have to double check what I'm saying, but as far as I know, like stevia is probably the best option.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do here. It's on this time. Yeah, let's spray it down. Okay, so what we're gonna do, and maybe if you look at the chat later and see all the questions, they will answer all this. Okay. So what we're making, the other recipe would be, it's green beans, cranberries, and nuts. And you can use either canned green beans, you can use frozen green beans, or you can use fresh green beans. And I think I've done it with all three. So the fresh, obviously they have to cook a little bit longer than the canned green beans. It's done in like 2 seconds if you use the canned green beans. But sometimes the texture of these might be preferred to some people. Some people might like the other ones better. So I'm just gonna use green beans. Okay, so here's what's in this one. Those guys. So what we're gonna do is just a little bit of olive oil or spray, do the green beans, and then you add in cranberries, dried cranberries. You can also use fresh, and that'll be even more in carbohydrates. So if you think about the dried, it's just concentrated, right? So a little bit goes a long way. So put in these, and then we picked, you can basically pick whatever nut. You could do pecans, you could do walnuts, but I have some slivered almonds. So we're gonna do slivered almonds. And then we'll put in about 2 tablespoons of each of those. So that would be about half of 1/4 cup there. And so, again. Okay. We'll put in. So it calls for, it recommends anyway, 2 teaspoons of olive oil or canola oil. So this is a teaspoon. And we have a little bit extra green beans if you can see those in there. We're serving everybody here. Okay. We got that. We want to turn it down just a little bit. We'll get that, and then in a little bit we'll add in, we're gonna use 2 tablespoons of these, so that's about a half of 1/4 cup. How many tablespoons are in 1/4 cup? 4. 4, yeah, it is. We'll do it. Whoops. Obviously, I need to practice measuring.
I had that question about that because I was using half and half to try to figure out how much of 2 tablespoons is equal.
Yeah, it would be 1/8 cup. You're right, 2 tablespoons, 1/8 cup.
Plus it's 1 ounce. Right?
1, 2. So there's 8 ounces in a cup. So it'd be 2 ounces. Right? Nope, just kidding. One, yes.
Whatever.
Everyone's like yelling at the screen. No, no. Yeah, so yeah, 1 ounce. Good call.
Well, I had to look it up, but
Yeah,
because I was trying to measure my half
there's even more. We're gonna set off the fire alarm. Maybe you can build us a fan. Okay, so it's cooking. But anyway, so we have the nuts here. Add a few more. The cool thing about almonds is they have calcium, and some of the other nuts don't have that. That's why they're kind of special. The walnuts, what do walnuts have that a lot of the other nuts don't have? I'm looking at the chat. Does anybody know what walnuts have? What kind of fat? Yes, somebody got it. Yep, you guys got it. Omega-3 fatty acids, and that's the one that really good for us. It helps to prevent depression. They look like it helps your brain. It helps your heart. It's the one that's in fatty fish too, and so that's the only nut that has like a good amount of that. I think we'll get good. At least it works, right? Okay. I'm just gonna throw this in and then. All right. We'll put in a little bit extra. Okay. All right, and then they recommend, so after that, recipe suggests cranberry softened. You stir in the green beans again, so we just have it all in there. And we just want to cook until they're heated through, basically, or until they're however soft you want them to be. And then we just add the honey, and you can add whatever seasonings you want. Caleb picked some basil. And then we also have some chili powder left over. So you back a few options. But let's see. So 1/2 tablespoon of honey. So we can just drizzle that on there. Yeah. And then serve them while they're hot. So that's all with that. Then I'm going to show you quick. Here's our meatloaf, mini meatloaves. You guys can see. Kind of turned out. I know it's hard to see, isn't it? A little bit, but maybe we could
I'll walk around and show them if you want.
yeah, well, they'll get to taste one. So, and so you can see the football awesome wrapper here. I think I'm gonna like this method, you guys.
Good Super Bowl idea, you know?
Yeah, just choose whichever wrapper. Okay, so we got that. And if you can tell, so this recipe with the meatloaf, it was it's supposed to serve 12, and so we made it into 24. So if you wanted, obviously, you'd make a bigger ones for yourself, or if you're having it for a meal. So thinking about the palm of your hand is about 3 ounces. So I'd say maybe we're at like about 2 on some of these. Some of them maybe. I need to. I'll get a scale and figure that out. But yeah, so just thinking about that. So we got that. Let me just look at questions quick, and then it will drizzle on some honey, and we'll call it a day. It's hard sometimes too. Let's see. Sorry, get up close to you guys. Okay, so let me just see if I can tell the chat. Maybe I apologize. I'm gonna go to the other one. Oh, good idea.
That's on the keyboard.
Oh, that's awesome. Caleb has the chat on his phone, so I can do that. Okay, so you guys are busy chatting. Okay, maybe. Okay, they're telling some jokes. I know you guys have already seen this, so. Oh, okay, the milk in there in the meatloaf, it's evaporated skim milk. And yes, they're in cupcake wrappers. We got that. Okay. Oh, God, interesting. Okay, let me think. And then Ron left, so we don't know about the keto pill, but I'm going to look that up and get back to you on that because I'm curious too. I mean, you'd think it would have been in the news. Did you see it on the news?
Is it a supplement? Or is it just like a?
We'll look it up. Keto, what was it? The
keto
GT. Okay.
it's a commercial.
Okay.
Commercial, and they have, where you can
Okay. You know, somebody told me once, she's like, you know, if it's on a commercial, she's like, if we really figured out how to like fix all the diabetes and all like extra weight or anything, she's like, it's be on the news, not on the commercial.
Does anybody know how the keto diet even started?
You know?
Epileptic patients.
Oh.
Something like that to help. Yeah, that's how it got started. It's like back in the 50s.
So they've been doing it a long time in real life.
It started with epileptic patients to help prevent seizures.
Carbs can increase the risk of having a seizure.
Well, if
Well,
they
not
have
very much.
epilepsy,
Yeah.
yeah. And so they put them on really low carb.
Also, the Academy of Dietetics and Nutrition voted keto diet like one of the worst diets you can go on. The #1 diet in the nation right now is the Mediterranean. It's almost like the DASH diet.
Yeah, just try to, I'll read over all this better later. Yeah, foods with fiber, great. What about foods with fiber that are starchy? So like foods with fiber that are starchy would be especially like those starchy vegetables, right? But that would help, they would be a benefit for them, you know, whereas like ice cream does not have any fiber. So, you know, if you're trying to, like, that would be one benefit of choosing those vegetables that are starchy is that it has fiber too. You know, sometimes I gotta tell you guys, I like oatmeal, but just to have it like with something like a protein, I actually put an egg in it. I've heard other people do that, so I'm not the only one, but you know, it can like, you know, it holds you over longer and it,
Makes it creamy too.
yeah, it has some protein then, more protein, I guess. Yeah, sometimes vegan meat can definitely be an option. Just look at sometimes depending on what they're made of, they could have some carbs. We're talking about plantains, guys. Okay. All right. So I think she's like, she goes, plantains are good. So, well,
They taste amazing, especially.
where are you from? Puerto Rico. Okay, so we have some, she says she's also plantains. They do have vitamins, so you got me on that. Okay, so glycemic index. Yeah, just the sugar. You just you know, sometimes people, I think, you know, just because you're vegetarian or vegan, you know, you would think that you can be a very unhealthy vegetarian or vegan too. Hey, did you ever look up the keto GT professor? Okay, you want to come on, tell him? Okay, so Ron's gonna quick tell us on the, and I think we got, and keto Atkins diet, a little bit higher carbohydrates than keto diet. Wasn't that what you
Okay,
say?
all right, very good.
That's true.
So who was asking about the keto GT?
Yeah, all right.
So,
Yep. So there's a question about the keto GT. I need to be a short person here, so we'll just do it like this. So there was a question about the keto GT. I was looking at the ingredients in it in some reviews. So it has 3 ingredients that actually are ketones that helps it either get you into ketosis or keep you in ketosis. So in short, anybody who's going to be in ketosis, especially for those with diabetes, it's best to talk to your physician first before taking the product. And there's a disclaimer with the product. It's very hard to find online, so that kind of makes me wonder why it's so hard to find. Yeah. And there's some bad customer reviews on it too, where when you buy the product, it kind of automatically enrolls you into a monthly or annual payment of a couple $100, and people have a hard time getting their money back. So that's kind of my review on it in short. So.
You know, it's just too good to be true, which, you know.
I would like to look it up, but you, I mean.
Yeah. You use the word snake oil.
I did.
Yeah. It might be like a snake oil.
So
Yeah.
the idea would be that it would get you into, it would keep you in, so it could help you maintain the keto diet.
Yeah. It sounds like it either gets you into ketosis or keeps you in ketosis if you have a hard time with that. Right.
Okay.
Well, good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
And you
too.
know, you said the Academy thought it was, the keto was one of the worst diets. Is it because of the nutritional factors? A lot of people miss out on vitamins.
And just the fact that, I've heard that it takes a toll on your digestive system too. A lot of people, it's just hard to do. Like, you know, the whole ketosis thing, it's really confusing for some people, and then it's hard, the keto flu and all that stuff. So it's just not long term.
Right.
People, you know, obviously crave carbohydrates, and then that knocks you out of ketosis, and you have to go back and take ketosis. It's just,
Yeah, it's good we're talking about that. You know, like,
choose something that's a lifestyle, you know, like not.
yeah, what I think would be the hardest with the keto diet, just from what I've read, is that, you know, it can help people lose weight, you know, and it can help even decrease some of the levels and stuff. And they found that it can be helpful with people with diabetes, but you just have to be careful when you want to start including the carbs again, just so that you can like easily do it, you know, just like ease yourself back into it is kind of what yeah. Okay. So I think we pretty much done. I'll check in the chat and make sure when I try to send, I'll send the PowerPoint out just so you guys can look at it if you want. Yeah, and dehydrated fruits would be okay, definitely in moderation. Just remembering that they would be about half of the amount that, yeah, that's the palm of your hand thing again. So to equal a piece of bread, it would be less, you know. It's usually raisins, I think it's just a couple tablespoons and you're kind of there. So I don't know. She's shaking her head. But like, you know, like you can, no, it's okay. There's a lot of good foods, like, and the idea would be just to, you know, have a little bit of what you want, like over time. So with the carbs. Okay. Thank you guys all for staying on. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week then. Monk fruit. Yes, that is also working as an artificial sweetener. Sorry, I missed that earlier. So he was just asking about monk fruit, if that could be a good one. And it can be. It's actually from a real fruit, kind of like the stevia. They've been using it a long time. I used to find it in kashi cereal like a long time ago. So, but I've seen like the fruit. I've never tried it though. That would be fun to try. Actually, I don't even know if you can eat it. Do you know if you can eat it? So that's something else I need to look into. Okay. So thank you guys. Okay. All right. Thank you guys all for joining. I appreciate the active chat. You guys are great. Yeah. All right. Take care, you guys. And thank you so much.